Boom! According to that, I am live. Welcome. I just realized I have a slight technical problem with my iPad. Its battery is dead. So I am. Ooh, boom, 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 boom. I am using my iPhone instead, which also has a battery that's nearly run out. So as soon as the iPad is starting to properly charge, I will switch back over to that and use that. I've got that plugged in at the moment. Hope you guys are all well. Nicholas Rapp, I'm glad to see that your body is ready. Whatever that means. It's good to see you all. How are you all doing? It is man, it's already November. It's like November 26th. We're getting to be December, end of the year in no time really. How are you all doing? That's gonna keep dying unless I fix the battery settings, so let me do that. Just give me 1 sec there. Bradley Ford, I saw that you're going to Singapore. Congratulations. Oh, and the iPad is coming online with perfect timing, so that will fix that. Well, Bradford, keep watching. Certainly, it's how long have you been in Japan? About 5 years? You've been here a long time, actually. I think maybe even longer than that, right? I just noticed your Facebook thing just before when I was going through my updates. Hey, 49 Star, good to see you. Be sure to check out 49 Star SoundCloud, it is awesome. Dave O'Hunter, good to see you. Sergeant Bilko, who else we got here? We got Nicholas Rapp, Sergeant Bilko, Robert Old Dude, lots of people. And Bradford, 6 years. See, that's actually quite a big threshold. I find people who get past about 5 years in Japan, a lot of those people tend to stay, you know, like for a long time. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's quite a big deal moving, but there again, you know, you've got connections and so on with the country, and I'm sure you will be back, as you say. And being expatted from Japan to SG, there's worse places in the world to be an expat. I grew up in Singapore as a kid. I go back there a lot. I know expats over there, and they get a great deal. It's a great place. It's a very easy place to be an expat. So you have that coming going in your advantage. Just as right, James Kelly from Chicago. Hi indeed. It must be early in the morning for you. So thanks for joining, and good to have you with the live chat. And Quint Rankid, good to have you along as well. Yeah, the iPad is still booting up, so we'll plug that in a minute. Got a few things to talk about tonight, not a lot of topics, but some bits and pieces to talk about. The app is going well. It is got the final set of specs for the beta going, and hopefully we'll get the beta up in a position that we'll be able to take sign-ups. Hopefully by the next show, I'll be able to start announcing sign-ups, which would be awesome. For people who want to try it out, it's going to be really good. It's just going to be a way of watching and organizing your subs along. I've got way too many subs, that's my problem. Odie Jr., boom, good morning. Boom, right back at you, and good morning to you. I find it amazing people can watch me in the morning. Like, I guess it's a bit like a snooze alarm, right? Whatever, it's Sunday morning for you guys. So yeah, maybe that's the thing. Very good to have you all joining from all the different parts of the world that you are in. So yeah, the app, I think I've dropped something on my main channel thing, community. It's a new feature which I just enabled today. But yeah, it's going to have 2 features. It's going to allow you to organize over like hundreds. In fact, I've got over 1,000 subscriptions. So it's going to let me organize those, which I've always wanted to do, a bit like RSS, but you know. But the other thing is that you can do lots of things which help you organize, well, not lots of things, but there are options for organizing your subscriptions, but it will also let you watch and catch up with them a lot more easily. So we'll find out how that goes. Odie Jr., you work nights, so it's actually close to bedtime for you. Well, that's perfect then. Then I'm being of great help, I hope. So yeah, that is going to be awesome. I think you got a quick brief look at the logo there from my iPhone screen. It is cool. It's in the background of I was hoping to be a bit more cryptic, actually. It's in the background of the thumbnail for this video. But yeah, what else have we got going on? We also have oh man, it's been kind of cold and dry here lately. My nose is blocked up a lot. It blocks up easily, but it's blocked up at the moment. Now that is working. The iPad is on 3%. Damn. So this is probably. Oh, let me get this online. And plug in and output. And boom, let's get this going. Oh, in fact, does that have to, I've got the perspective of that locked at the moment. Let's put that there. Hopefully you'll be getting that screen in a moment. One thing I've been quite enjoying watching season 2 of Mr. Robot lately. It's on Amazon. I've been watching it. It's the first thing I've watched on that for a while. I've been watching mostly Netflix. I'm like halfway through it. I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying the binge watching and the progression of it. You can see sort of it seems to be borrowing from a lot of common sort of themes from other things, but it is quite compelling, and I am enjoying it. However, I am a little bit aware that I've noticed this with a lot of Netflix shows as well. They tend to, like, I think they use the liberation in a way of being able to use this new format that they you know, try to put on new sort of shocking things that you haven't seen on TV before. Yeah, Bradley Ford, same here. I saw some chatter about it, saying that it was good, and it was very binge watchable, which I'm finding it is indeed. Yeah, I find that sometimes it's always becoming gimmicky, the idea of having these every episode has some sort of shocking thing, you know, like just like not related to the plot or anything, just some scene that's like something that you haven't seen before. And Mad Men was true like this. I think, just trying to think back, there were a lot of, I mean, Breaking Bad was like this. I mean, a lot of them were sort of like that, they had that, but it's sort of like, you know, you wonder, like, are they just doing this just to see how far they can get away with stuff? But that said, and Sergeant Booker, no spoilers please, I'm in season 2, I'm sure if you just started, Bradley, you are indeed up for some good twists and turns, but yeah, it's quite watchable, so I'll tell you, you're on the right track with the good thing, but I kind of I've been questioning whether it's really worth all the gimmicks, you know, whether they need to have them lately. But yeah. So much drugs. It does calm down a little, the drugs aspect, but it goes into other things. I mean, seriously, it gets a bit like, it goes intense in different directions. But that is, yes, no spoilers. That's right. So anyway, let us go into what we have tonight. We'll see. It might get a little bit short. I didn't have an awful lot of stuff, but firstly, very important. The Mascot Grand Prix for Japan was recently held. And we have a new winner there. We have, in fact, it is, what is the name? It's the Narita Mascot. So it's like an eel with like wings and jet engines underneath is the new #1 mascot in Japan. This is important stuff. I mean, this is as big as the election itself. That is Unari-kun, who is, I actually thought it looked to me totally like it was like a bird with wings under it, which would be kind of boring for Narita. But apparently it's Unari-kun is actually an eel. I guess Narita, so they have the jet engines, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. I need to quickly blow my nose. 1 second, I will. Pardon me. I got a little bit of kind of not exactly a cold. I played rugby today. I guess that might have done it. But yes. Hey, Saint Sunday, good to see you. And Barringer, yes, I mean, that's happening a lot in everything nowadays as well, but it still is good to watch. But yes, Odie Jr., don't worry, you're watching me electronically, you're perfectly safe. So apparently, yes, the annual, you know, Mascot Grand Prix with all the, apparently, I saw Kumamon. In fact, you can see Kumamon there right on the edge of the screen in the background. Looking on, Kumamon really is still the true king of Japanese mascots, but it is good to see other less famous mascots having the opportunity to become famous. And who knows what wild ride Unari-kun is going to be going through next, with that medal hanging over its wing, beside one of those, dangerously close to one of those engines. But yes, important stuff here. So I thought that was an interesting, important development to get you guys up to speed on. It's actually funny, I was reminded earlier this week of a story. Somebody told me that they actually were walking through a park and they saw Masato, the famous K1 fighter. And he said Masato, and I'm thinking Masato's a pretty common name. I'm thinking, are you talking about a Masato that we know in common? They said, you know, Masato, the famous fighter. And then I was like, oh shit, I remember I actually have quite a good Masato story that I told the guy, and he was impressed, so I thought I'd put it up on Twitter. I haven't actually told this story very much. I don't know why it hadn't come up to me in my other storytelling things. I'm pretty sure I haven't shared it here, so I'll share it here. It was actually my first time. Well, let me put it this way. I mean, you can see the story down together. In fact, that kind of gives the whole thing away a little bit. But basically, I used to not exactly date. I wanted to date, but I wasn't exactly going dating. But I was hanging out quite a lot with a girl I was kind of into in my early years in Japan. And I didn't know when I met her. I didn't meet her at her work. I found out later on, apart from being quite fun to hang out with, that she was actually working at a upmarket Ginza hostess club. You know, hostess. You wouldn't call it a kebakura, actually. You call it a hostess place. You know, for basically rich old dudes hanging out, talking with attractive young women who were sort of whirled in because of her job. She was excellent to go out with because she knew all these kind of secret, excellent bars that these old fellas would take her out to and so on. And it was kind of fun hanging out with her and her friend. And I think it was around the time that I knew about this. She said, come out for drinks. And I was always just like, yeah, sure, I'll be right there. So I ran over to Shinjuku Sanchome. And we were having some drinks, and she said actually she's going to meet up with some other friends, and you know, going to go out drinking. Can't tell you where it is, but you want to come along? You know, hell, why wouldn't I want to hang out with a bunch of, you know, Ginza hostesses, you know, on their off night having drinks? So it sounds like fun. So I said sure, you know, up for anything, take me along. So I went along. These are all Japanese, by the way. So we went walking from Ginza, from Shinjuku Sanchome, and at this time I didn't really know what Nichome was. But we were walking into, it became pretty obvious as you walk into Nichome what Nichome is. Shinjuku Nichome, by the way, is the gay neighborhood in Tokyo. There is a gay district. It's where all the sort of gay bars and so on are. You know, there's kind of, it looks like a regular neighborhood, but it's got a lot of small bars and sort of snacks and everything. But you can kind of start to get the vibe as you're walking through, you know, just by the names of the places and sort of, you know, it becomes kind of clear what it is. And as we were walking, we ran into the other hostesses. Who were there with another friend of the girl that I was there with, who was this guy who turned out to be Masato, of course. I didn't quite recognize him at the time, although I think this is like 2002, and I think he had just become for the first time a K1 champ at that time. He's been a high fighter for the, you know, high-ranking fighter the whole time, and he's quite famous and good on, you know, good on TV and everything. But there was him. There was basically 8 girls, and there were like, I think there were like 3 guys, 4 guys. In fact, there were 3 guys, but basically we were all sort of brought from different directions with all of these girls who wanted to go out and hang out on their off night in a host bar. But it was kind of a hostess bar. It was kind of a kabakura with gay guys, you know, okama as the host. And this is the only time, as the hostesses, if you like. This was the only time I've ever actually been to one of these. But it was kind of funny as we were going into the place. So I was kind of like, well, I've never been to one of these before, but you know, hell, I'm fine. I'm with a whole bunch of beautiful women who are taking me out there. Sure, why the hell not? You know, might be interesting talking to them. So I'm kind of sure I'm up for anything. So we're kind of going up, and as we're going up, and as it became clear what we were going into, and I must admit, I was kind of like, oh, it's one, right, okay, well, sure. I was kind of like that, but as we're going up the stairs, one of the guys with the group who I didn't know, apparently, at the bottom of the stairs, he literally got cold feet. He couldn't go up the stairs, and he's kind of like, actually, I have to be somewhere. I have to go by. And he started to go away, and Masato shouted from the top of the stairs, come on, climb the staircase of manhood. Dansei no kaidan noboru. So he said something like that, which I thought was actually quite funny. You know, prove what a man you are by climbing up the stairs to the gay club. The guy said, no, see you, and he ran away. So as it ended up, it was a really small place. It was like a little snack type of a place. It had 4 okama hosts in there. So it was 4 hosts, 8 Ginza hostesses, and me and Masato. And again, this all sounds cool. I mean, look, you know, I was like 23 at the time. How old? In fact, I was older than that. I would have been about 25. But I'm hanging out there with a K1 champion who I didn't realize was a K1 champion, but this guy who seems pretty cool. 8 beautiful hostesses and you know, in a gay bar, but who cares? And it seems like, well, this is going to be interesting. Or everyone in this room is interesting. This is going to be great. I realized pretty quickly it wasn't as great as it probably seemed like it was going to be when I was going in, because what it basically is it's like 12 girls talking. Conversationally, it's like 12 women talking. And, you know, the whole okama thing is that they play these kind of gossipy sort of characters, you know, that the girls love it. So they go around and they sort of, you know, they attack the fashion of each one of the girls, and oh, I hate your hair, and you know, that dress and that bag, it totally doesn't work. And I sort of realized after a half an hour sitting there, this is actually the most boring conversation I've ever had. There's no way for me to participate at all. So I was sitting next to, and my friend came and said, hey, so you want to meet this guy? I said, hey, nice to meet you, my name's Hiko. Stuck my hand out, and he's like, don't you know who I am? And I genuinely, and I followed K1, so I don't know why I didn't recognize. He seemed kind of familiar, but I couldn't place it, you know. So I just said, no, who are you? And I think someone said his name was Mascot, and I was like, okay, well, nice to meet you, Mr. Mascot. I'm Hiko. And it was kind of funny. We talked about surfing, and we exchanged emails at the end. You know, mobile mails at the end of the thing. My friend was my hostess friend was trying to get us to go surfing together, which we never got around to doing. And it wasn't until like the next day it clicked me. Oh shit, that was Mascot. But it was kind of more fun in a way because I didn't know, or I didn't click that I recognized him. That we actually had kind of a fun hanging out. So yeah, Elite Run, I'm more than 38 now. I am, no, that's right. So actually, in fact, so let's see, 2002, I would have been 27, I guess, or 26 going on 27. I was born in 75. I don't give a shit, I just turned 42. I am an old man now. So this is when I was young and an idiot, but it helps in some situations to be clueless. The night was actually, it was pretty interesting. Apart from having my junk grabbed like 3 or 4 times, I was actually complaining at one point, hey, you guys aren't even talking to me. And they'll look away and they grab my junk, and I'm like, okay, well, I was kind of asking for that, and given the environment, sure. Having good taste is not a crime. That was probably part of their job, right? So apart from that, it was an okay thing. I obviously haven't been back, but if you're into that sort of thing, that's the place to go. You don't even have to ask me about that. It's kind of famous in Nichome. And it was an interesting night out. So I got the story, which I enjoyed the 280 characters to relay in my own way there. On that is right, Ales Witch, or is it Ales Witch or Ales Witch? I should check the pronunciation of that, but that is right. I am the answer to the universe. That can't be right. That doesn't make any sense at all. But it sounded nice saying it there for a minute and pretending to believe it. So there we go. In fact, it's kind of funny for that whole story. People seem to be most hooked up on calculating my age, which there you go. This is an interesting one. I must admit, like in Japan, every convenience store I see around Tokyo, including ones like in my office building, in my neighborhood by the kindergarten and the school, they all still have massive racks of porn magazines in Japan, which I always found kind of interesting. Japan is a high population, but it's a very geographically dense country, and you always do kind of wonder how Japan just manages to restock its magazine and porn movie industry with so many people, given how kind of compact the country is. But even more mysterious to me is who would buy like for example, there's a convenience store in my building at work, and it's got the full porn rack thing, and yet everyone who goes to that, probably not everyone, but probably about 80% of the customers there are from my building. So it's like, who buys these things? I don't get it. Pretty much the whole purpose of buying magazines was pretty much gone, literally, from when you had what were they, like 36k modems? So the moment you got 36k modems, this was pretty much the first and last thing everyone with a 36k connection to the internet did. When there weren't enough pages on the internet to browse properly, you would just sign up to Usenet and subscribe to different groups, and you'd just basically have 5 minutes for every photo to load, which were all just scans of old magazines. But it was a way that you could, without going out, without having to pay, and without having to go out in public, that you could get access to this material. And this was in 1996, 1997. In 2017, all these convenience stores, including mini stops, still have these massive racks of magazines. And I don't know, I guess it must be two people. It must be the Japanese people who for some reason still don't know about the internet, and people who just get a thrill from making shop clerks uncomfortable by buying this stuff, is kind of thrill seekers. I can't really understand. 14.4, then 28, and then it was 56, right? So maybe it was like 14.4. I just remember, it was like watching like a mysterious dance, watching the JPEG lines fill one by one from the top down. You know, like it was always kind of like. I mean, it was inappropriate, of course, but this is like what the whole internet was for. I mean, you know, when it came out, I can't understand how in 2017 people buy these things in the first place. But apparently, you know, people are complaining. It also is a mystery that people haven't complained about these until now. But I suppose it's becoming so weird. Was there a 33? For some reason, I remember 33, you know, 36 or 33.6 bit. You know, I might be getting 56 mixed up. But I know I had something before 56, so maybe it's 14.4 or 22, I don't know. But the point being, I mean, how is this still even a thing? And if you come to Japan, you'll see they are everywhere. And it's not like, you know, Penthouse and Playboy. It's like, you know, 20 different magazines always there. And they don't hide a lot on the covers either. And kids are right beside reading the manga and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm not a prude with this sort of thing. Fine, it's just more mysterious to me that these things even still exist. So yeah, by the way, we have Olivia D, good to have you along, late to the game, but here nonetheless indeed. And this is the thing, those orange things do jump out, so please use them. If you want to direct a question to me, I will normally catch them if you phrase them that way. I can't read every single comment, but I will read the ones that pop up and they look orange and they say Hiko Simon, so say that. And that is how Hiko Simon became the next fluffy mascot king. That's a true story. That is a true story indeed. And I'll leave one more point, case in point, and I didn't actually realize that Playboy actually stopped publishing physical issues. Well, there you go. I only ever read them for the articles anyway. No, I mean, it amazes me that people say that. But the thing is, I mean, it used to be such a thrill in a way. Like as a kid, it's like those were like the forbidden magazines that you waited to be, you know, old enough to go buy, or you know, someone else would steal one from their cousin or whatever and bring them to school. You know, it was kind of a big deal. But geez, you know, this was like I feel like I'm talking about the 1960s when I talk like that. It's like, and it was probably the same thing then. So this is a big mystery to me. But it looks like even Japan is coming into the 1990s. When this sort of thing was supposed to stop making any sense anymore. So I found that kind of interesting. North Korea is designated formally by, well, we say Trump. Trump says that he's designating North Korea a terrorist state sponsor of terrorism in order to put more pressure up. But I really, let's be clear, this is the US that is doing this. It's not just one man does that on a whim, although they make a big deal about that. And sure, it looks like Japan, you know, America's just looking for a war with North Korea for no good reason. But well, I'm kind of like, well, you know, remember North Korea was on this list of state terrorist sponsors until 9 years ago, and it was on that list for some pretty damn good reasons. I mean, apart from the fact that it actually did shelter members of the Japanese Red Army. The Japanese Red Army, by the way, was not, these were Japanese revolutionary left-wing terrorists that you know, blew up and killed people all over Japan. But they also did, you know, they shot up the Lod airport in the middle in Israel. They hijacked airplanes, you know, and supported the Palestinian cause in the 70s. And they blew up airplanes and stuff. There's some crazy badass mofos. You know, the Red Army in North Korea, you know, allowed their members to live in North Korea with the support of the North Korean government. And apart from that, you know, they did things like they blew up in Myanmar. They blew up the entire South Korean cabinet, the entire government cabinet. When they were there for a conference, the North Koreans went and blew up the building that they were in and killed everybody in the 70s. You know, all the assassinations, the bombing South Korean airliners deliberately. I mean, North Korea did crazy terrorist shit. And it was really, I remember there was an incident, it was during the Clinton administration, I think, that there was some incident where North Korean diplomats were actually being searched the same way people on this list of countries from sponsors of state terrorism are subject to searches in the US that other diplomats are not. I believe including searches of the diplomatic pouches. They got so upset by this that they actually returned all the Red Army members to Japan. They're now in jail in Japan, all the people who were in North Korea, or at least they're back in Japan. And they made a concerted effort. They at that time they ceased their nuclear program. They did a lot of things to actually try to appease the US and get off this list. And they are now back on that list. And you could say, well, they got rid of the, you know, they kind of did do a bunch of steps to justify being taken off the state sponsors of terrorism list before. But that said, don't forget, in February this year, they killed a guy in public in an airport, you know, in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. You know, they still do crazy stuff. They, you know, they it looks like they sunk a South Korean submarine last year. They shelled an island with people on it. You know, they still do crazy stuff. The whole thing about how North Korea manufactures methamphetamine, which they import into Japan. Apparently most of the meth from Japan comes from North Korea, and they import it into China. They create these super bills, counterfeit money. The best quality counterfeit US money in the world is from there, apparently. So they do a bunch of crazy shit, you know, and I think it's perfectly justified, given that and everything else going on, to have them on that list. I mean, I don't think they justify not being on the list. You know, not setting aside the fact of the still estimated to be dozens of Japanese and unquestionably hundreds of South Korean, and we know of Lebanese, Romanian, other hostages, you know, abductees that are still being held in North Korea and are not allowed to leave. So, you know, on the way now, I don't want a war with North Korea. I don't want to provoke them or anything like that. But this is a factually accurate designation. So I thought that was interesting, and I know a lot of people saw this and kind of thought, well, this is just him being him again. I really don't even like to say that person's name anymore. He's part of the U.S. government. The U.S. government aren't all morons. A lot of them apparently are, and a lot of the people who vote for the government apparently are morons. What can you say about that? But at the end of the day, it's not. He doesn't make that, you know, decision by diktat, and I think it's the right call, actually. So that was interesting. This was also interesting. So this happened this week. You probably heard the fuss about the Comfort Woman statue going up in San Francisco. Apparently, this is something that South Korean expat groups all around the world were sponsoring, putting up replicas of the South Korea of the Comfort Women statues that were going up all over Korea. And including being put in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul and the consulate in South Korea in Busan. And basically, you know, the picture of the statue of the sitting young girl waiting in front of the Japanese embassy to be properly acknowledged and you know, compensated or whatever, holding Japan accountable stoically forever for the crime of the Comfort Woman. And Japan kind of complained that this was sort of being done in an antagonistic way, and that there are rules under the Vienna Convention about playing host to foreign embassies, that you're not allowed to sort of you're basically not allowed to put like big, this happens of course in Cuba with the US embassy, but you can't put up big signs and billboards, you can't put up you can't antagonize the facilities of embassies that you play host to. You know, it's all reciprocal, right? You treat people nicely and they treat your people nicely in your country. And Japan was complaining, this was before the Comfort Woman issue was anywhere near being resolved, that these statues were going up to put extra pressure on Japan, and you could say that it worked. The whole thing, really what instigated the whole Comfort Woman deal with South Korea was Japan was asking repeatedly, please take this away from being in front. You put it anywhere you like, but don't put it in front of the embassy or the consulate. And it ended up resulting in the negotiation with the Park administration, which resulted in the compensation package, the fund, the apologies, again from the Abe administration and so on, to try to do the best shot that they could get at resolving the issue. However, it's the South Korean one park, of course, got kicked out. I think the people who were opposed to the settlement, I mean, people that were basically, well, I've always said this, Koreans are entitled to be pissed off forever. No matter how much history Japan or some people in Japan want to deny. And it's really only a small percentage of people who are really revisionists who want to deny that Japan ever did anything wrong. But even if you deny everything, you can't deny the fact that Japan's just paying the price for fucking with Korea. They shouldn't have colonized it in the first place, and they're gonna have to deal with this forever. You know, just at the most minimal level from this. You know, and Korea's entitled. It's going to be, you know, to be angry for as long as it wants. I think Japan's made sincere efforts to try to address the issue, but it still is there. And you know, given that the other side doesn't want the issue fixed, it's not going to stay. You know, it's probably not going to be fixed. I mean, I was happy and optimistic briefly when the settlement was announced. But it was pretty clear the Comfort Women, they're all, you know, 90 years old now, and they don't want it resolved. They want to keep their anger, and they're entitled to it. And the activists who put up these statues want to antagonize Japan, and they want to make sure Japan's basically got this hanging over them forever, and I think that's the way it's going to be. It's not going to be avoidable. However, Japan is entitled, and it has gone around saying when they've tried to put up these statues in other countries, please don't do that. Please don't, don't. This is between Japan and Korea. Let us have our issue between us. Please don't, allow your places to become new foregrounds for this dispute. But there again, I mean, just like there are all over the world memorials for other people suffering, for the genocides in Armenia, for the Jewish Holocaust, for all sorts of things. There's no problem at all with having memorials to those sort of other sort of historical wrongs and so on. And in that light, apparently the Korean activist groups were becoming aware that it was becoming a little bit obvious that this was like a campaign being waged by Korean nationalists against Japan and other countries. So this particular one in San Francisco is actually funded by a kind of Pan-Asian society, and it was actually under the rules of San Francisco family statues. It wasn't the same statue. It was a statue featuring a Korean, a Chinese, and a Filipino woman. And the San Francisco City Council agreed to the statue, to put the statue up, to basically, again, remind everybody of this terrible thing that the Japanese government did in World War II. There's a bit of controversy, not even a bit, there's a lot of controversy in Japan about the narrative around whether it happened, how it happened, and the basis of it coming out in the 1990s. That led to the apology and the acknowledgement that was given by the Japanese government in 1995. In a way, some would say it was the right thing to do, to come out and acknowledge it and say it was wrong. On the other hand, Japan's it's kind of empowered the people who have raised this as an issue, and it never really came up before 91, like politically. However, you talk about handling issues badly, and Japan just has a talent for it. That's a long lead-in. But the mayor of Osaka, apparently, Osaka has a sister city relationship with San Francisco, which he said over the statue he is going to cut off in protest. And again, I always wondered, do they have any idea how it makes things look worse when you react like that? I mean, I don't quite buy into the story that Germany's done so much more than Japan to atone for, the war thing. I mean, the German government has not given anywhere near the number of apologies or the types of apologies that the Japanese government has gotten. It's an old line that gets used, if Germany was like Japan. But what Germany has done that is different is that they definitely, politically and publicly, nobody ever tries to justify the wrongs that happened in World War II. I mean, you just can't do it, of course, because the Nazis did such terrible shit, even compared to the Japanese, frankly. So of course they don't do that. But the thing is, in Japan, whenever this happens, they always manage to bait, some right wingers into saying, no, that never happened, And that's what you have with the mayor of Osaka, who's basically there, and he's there. Basically, he's been successfully trolled. He's been baited by this whole statue issue into really undermining Japan's relationship with America again. And the thing is, again, even if, and I'm not saying he is, but even if he was right, even if the story was overstated or embellished or, forged or whatever they say it is, yes. It still doesn't look good. I mean, in the end of the day, the only correct way to handle this is to say, look, lots of terrible things happened in World War II, and that's in the past, and we want to, have a positive future with our neighbors and so on, and we'll always remember this and make sure that nothing like this ever happens. Something like that. Just say something like that, and it's all done. They can have the statue. It doesn't matter. But making this a matter that they're gonna, it looks like Holocaust denial. This is a problem that whether it is that or not, and every Korean that you meet would say it is. But even if you've got Japanese people who deny that it's anything like that, it looks like Holocaust denial. It never looks good. So is the mayor running for re-election? Well, you'd assume he is. He's only been mayor for a couple of years, so I guess he will. And the mayor before him as well, Hashimoto, was also, very much of the sort of right-wing bent, particularly on historical revisionism, which is to say the Japanese feel like it damages Japan's reputation and its honor, and it needs to actually make sure that the correct facts are given about this, which they have a view of what those are. But in the end of the day, when you lose the war and you've got a victim who's sitting right there, over there, and even if they were right, it would still look absolutely terrible trying to assert the rightness. I mean, in the end of the day, they just have to bow their heads and move on. It's the only way to deal with this issue. And I'd say it's been a real win for the activists who put up the statue that they've been able to really get Japan to sabotage itself in the way that it's reacted to this. And just to drive it home even further, that they don't want the settlement that was agreed by the government with Japan. They've just South Korea just announced there's going to be an annual Comfort Woman Day, which is just going to be a day where people are going to talk about all the terrible things that Japan did to the Comfort Woman. And the law includes measures that are going to also prohibit any settlements without the consent of all of the comfort women, who are all about they're past the age of life expectancy now, the few that are remaining. So it's basically a law to pretty much enshrine that this is never going to be allowed to be resolved. And again, that's fine. If they don't want to resolve it, they don't have to resolve it. But you know, that 2015 deal, it just shows that it was kind of it was either insincere or it was just trying to do something which wasn't possible, which is kind of a shame. Hey, Mogberry Pie, good to see you. But there you go. This issue is going to carry on forever, and that is what a lot of people want. And I would also argue that for the people who feel like they are the victims of Japan, which I'd say includes the modern generations of not all, but many Korean people, the people who express who get this law passed, for example. Yeah, they're going to hold on to that, you know, and Japan has to deal with it. It's just the consequence of those decisions that it took back in 1910 to annex Korea. You know, this is just a continuation of all of the bad decisions it made, starting with that, and you know, going right through. It's not going to be allowed to forget them. It's a shame, but it's always very frustrating from my perspective to see an already sensitive issue being just handled so poorly. Joy Division, says Steve from Berkeley. I don't know why you're saying that, but there you go. This is up the top. This is the Japanese thing, a new type of harassment. There's all these new types of harassments coming up. One is what they call it. What do you call it? Jitan harassment, which is a lot of companies are harassing their workers. They're giving them so much work and impossible deadlines that they have to stay late, but they are prohibiting them from staying at work and finishing their work. They're telling them that they have to go home. This is partly because Labour Standards Bureau audits are now getting kind of tough. This is with Dentsu and companies like that, which had people work to death. Yeah, Nazi equivalent of comfort. I did not. I was not aware of that actually. But yeah. Oh, and by the way, for all of the denial and so on that the Japanese government wants to do, I mean, and whatever the different narratives are about what happened in Manchuria and Taiwan and Korea, in Indonesia, it's absolutely undeniable. I mean, there are absolutely undeniable cases where Japanese land forces took prisoners as sex slaves. They did it. I mean, the Nazis did it on a big scale and systematically. But the Japanese military did this. I mean, it's documented. The Japanese military even convicted and executed people for doing it after, you know, it was during and after the war. So it happened anyway. So it's a waste of time getting into the debate of semantics over it. It really is. They should just put their hand and just say that was a war. It was terrible. We'll never do it again. That's all I have to say. So anyway, a new type of harassment for not allowing people to do overtime, which is partly because of the orders to try to stop people working themselves to death. But, you know, sometimes people just want to do work. Hey, Tai Nakamura, good to see you. You should get a vocal on that track. That track, I felt like, just because of the title as well, I got a sense that maybe Maki was going to be coming in with something on that. And it always felt like, oh, that would totally work. This would totally work. Where's it coming? Where's it coming? And it didn't come in. It's a short track, but I still think you could do it, and you should totally try to sort that out. You should get a vocal on that, even though it's short. And you can even lengthen it a bit. I don't know. It's just a suggestion. Sorry to hit you with that right away, Tai Nakamura, but Tai Nakamura put up a very, very good track the other day that I thought really needs a vocal on it. I say really needs it would be really good. It would be even better. It's already good, but it would be even better with a vocal the way that I had in my head. That's what I was expecting. So I don't know. Is it harassment to prohibit your workers from doing overtime? I guess it kind of is when you are forcing them to still do work but not do it in the office, to make them go home and do it. But it also, I guess, reflects the idea that and this is true. I think we have this idea that when Japanese work to death, that they are doing so under the orders or the psychological pressure of their bosses making them work. When I was working like seriously body damaging long hours in my first job. There was a degree of that. There were times that I said, look, I've been working for 3 days, I need to sleep, you need to let me go home. And he was just saying, they've worked longer than you and they're still up, you do it too. I was told that by that boss. That was a terrible boss. But there were other times when I was working at a law firm, I would work 3 or 4 in the morning, and no, could I say that? Yeah, I could say a lot of the time there wasn't someone directly telling me to stay until that time. I just had work that I needed to get done, and I did it. You know, it's just partly out of a sense of responsibility, out of a sense. And I'm working in a Japanese company as an IT consultant. Teams stay there working late just out of a sense of mutual shared obligation. You know, so this is partly why companies have these rules of forcing people to go home. You know, in order to break that sort of cultural cycle where people feel like they can't leave because everyone else is still there. But then you do have this problem that people really genuinely want to get the work done. Wow, the name Mr. Cordy Chap seems to trigger censorship now. I don't understand that. But there we go. I'll show it anyway. So it's a little bit mysterious, but it does represent to me it's the pressure and the desire to do overtime, even extreme overtime like in Japan. It's not a top-down thing necessarily. It is actually a groupthink thing. People have it instilled, you know, from school, from bukatsu, from everything that they have to stay. And they can actually feel more stressed being told to go home than being allowed to just stay and get the work done that they want to get done. It is crazy. Mr. Cordy Chap, it wasn't me. I have no idea about that. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if can that ever be a form of harassment, a boss telling someone that they have to go home. I have to share this. I don't do crime stories normally. I find them kind of depressing and dark, and I don't like to go too far into them. Although hell, I talk about some dark shit earlier tonight anyway. But yeah. So this was an interesting one. I was reading the story, and this is a mysterious story. The news headline is the Kobe News incidents and accidents section are talking about a man. So it says a woman is arrested for stealing the anime DVDs, suspected of stealing the anime DVDs of the man that she was living with. And I'm like, well, that seems a little bit odd. So she stole the DVDs of the man that she was working with. I actually found out some updates to this tonight. In some ways, it's more fun not knowing the updates. So I'll tell you the story that this article goes through. So in Kobe, a 23-year-old woman was the police news, the police updates that they give to the press, as they gave the update that apparently a 23-year-old woman was taken into custody for stealing 8 DVDs worth apparently $900. So maybe they were collectible, who knows. Whenever they do a crime story on someone who's been arrested or charged or taken into custody, they always say, is that person a company worker or a civil servant, or are they unemployed? So apparently this woman who is taken into custody and is in jail at the moment is unemployed. We also know about her and that she's 23 years old. More information follows in the next paragraph. So at 10:45 in the morning, apparently on the 24th of November, she stole 8 DVDs worth $900 from her boyfriend, from her Kosei Aite, her boyfriend, who's 49 years old, 26 years older than her. And apparently she told the police she didn't have money, so she stole them, admitting to the accusations against her. The police were basically, they were going through what the DVDs sort of were, and that she went and exchanged them for cash. Apparently they were the man's most treasured possessions. But here's the thing. I mean, you know, all the situations where men and women get into whatever disputes they sort of have or whatever, and, you know, the girlfriend sold 8 of his favorite DVDs. You know, first thing is, would a boyfriend normally react by having police come and arrest her and pressing charges against her for it? And would police normally go along and agree with pressing charges? I'm thinking these must be some serious anime fan police. They must be really into their anime and recognize the damage that this man said. And what is a 23-year-old unemployed woman doing living with a boyfriend who's 49 years old and heavily, and I mean, maybe I'm showing prejudice here. Nothing wrong with being into anime, but seriously, she's living with a 49-year-old anime freak who would put her in jail for stealing his DVDs. You know, I mean, I don't know if he bought new DVDs to replace them. I don't know if the police were just really into anime as well, and they thought, yeah, she should totally go to jail. It was interesting. I saw this go up on Nichan tonight, and the comment said that she should get at least 10 years. Some suggested the death penalty. I think they were only half joking. I mean, this is Nichan. But yeah, I don't know how to feel about this. I don't. On the one hand, it's like justice, but on the other hand, I mean, his girlfriend took some DVDs. I mean, you know, in anger. It's a story that happens quite often, right? You know, throwing his clothes out on the street, destroying his CD collection or whatever, taking 8 of his DVDs. The police, by the way, were they confused as to whether the woman was his daughter or his girlfriend? I mean, because he is 26 years older than her. I mean, the whole thing, and the fact that he's charging his live-in girlfriend with theft, and they put her in jail for it. The moral of the story, according to Sergeant Bilko, is lock up your DVDs. It's kind of like, what in the hell was every single person in the situation thinking? That's kind of what I don't understand, and why I found the story interesting to share. But it's a weird story, so I shared it, and who knows, we'll find out more revelations as more comes out on this. Another interesting one tonight. The LDP, one of the general secretaries of the LDP, the governing party of Japan, apparently in a party conference got up on stage and said, soon we're going to be confronted with the issue of what we do with the LGBT spouses of foreign diplomats and heads of state that visit Japan, and whether we actually extend recognition of these spousal recognition to these LGBT spouses of foreign diplomats and presidents. He said this in a big public speech. And in that speech he said, well, speaking personally, I think we'll need to make a call on this sooner rather than later. We're going to be confronted with it, and personally, if it's up to me, I think it's incompatible with Japanese tradition, and I'm against it, said Mr. Takeshita, LDP secretary. Immediately, of course, in Parliament, this was seized upon, that the LDP has gone out and made basically bigoted statements, anti-LGBT statements, that would be taken as being hostile towards. Now there are several heads of states where their heads of states are openly gay, as well as increasing numbers of diplomats that are open about this. The response that the person gave in the end was that the cabinet secretary said it's inappropriate to be to state this, and he was only saying it in his own capacity, and he felt it was inappropriate to raise. The opposition jumped on this as the LDP being bigots again and so on, and the sort of self-righteous sort of wave came up. The guy came up and explained himself. He said, oh no, what I meant was it isn't actually so much my opinion. I mean, he literally said some of my best friends are gay. But he also said, on top of his best friends being gay, he said, I was just taking the position of the Imperial Household Agency by default. And the Asahi pointed out, yeah, that's a really interesting point that he just raised. The Imperial Household Agency has a thing that when foreign diplomats or foreign heads of state go to meet the Emperor, they are not allowed to they are invited to bring their spouses along unless they're LGBT. The Imperial Household Agency does not recognize or allow LGBT spouses to meet the Emperor. Even though in other situations there isn't a clear rule about it. And this guy was saying by default, let's just do what the Emperor does. And this shines a light. The Asahi sort of points out, Takeshita just made a really good point. Is it really acceptable in this day and age for the Imperial Household Agency to be so discriminatory against the spouses of foreign heads of state? Isn't this humiliating towards Japan to be so out of step? So in a kind of funny and probably extremely unintentional way, Takeshi just opened the door to everyone suddenly shining a bright light. Let's be clear, not on the Emperor. The Emperor is actually famously liberal when it comes to sort of social and historical issues, and often seems actually very much at odds with the agency that protects him, which is famously very conservative and sort of right-wing. And people who invoke the name of the Emperor tend to be far more right-wing and conservative than the Emperor himself. That said, no one knows what the Emperor actually personally thinks about this, but the agency that sort of surrounds and runs the palace upholding, old-fashioned Japanese samurai spirit values, does not recognize the spouses of foreign diplomats. And maybe because of this, whether you call it a gaffe or an inappropriately timed comment by the head of the LDP, or one of the head of general affairs of the party of the LDP, all of a sudden now, probably the Imperial Household Agency is going to come under some pressure to revisit its stance, and quite rightly, I would say. I mean, should they be in this day and age? Should they be doing what they're doing? So I thought it was kind of interesting, anyway. How the LDP just manages to mass produce and keep turning out people that just manage to respond to every situation in the worst way possible, that creates the most trouble and makes Japan just look terrible in every situation, like the comfort women statue thing. I mean, you can think whatever you like. It's, free country. You can think, you can vote, do whatever, but there are consequences when you say and act in ways that make you look like, a bigot or an apologist for war criminals. You just shouldn't do it. Do they need someone to draw up a manual for them on this? And yet, for all of this, the Japanese opposition pretty much acts like the Suicide Squad that comes to recognize Brian at the end of life of Brian. They kill all the guards, they go up ready to free him, and they'll commit suicide. That's pretty much how the Japanese opposition works. There's like the government. It doesn't make any sense to me that these guys, that the government doesn't get taken down for these positions. You could say it's backfired, probably in a spectacular way in this case, or it might prove to be. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from that. But yeah. This morning I was not up at 4:30 a.m. Quint Rankid, old-fashioned samurai values. Yes, we all know. Yes, old-fashioned samurai values, that totally all of that. But the thing is that the view of history of samurai history and all that traditional Japanese culture and history that's being upheld by the conservatives and the LDP and the Imperial Household Agency are the views of Meiji. Meiji, from the 1840s, I think, in Japan, from the Japanese Restoration. The man who imported Japanese, morality from Prussia and from Britain and so on, and had very firm ideas. He was the guy, and Japan's had multiple empresses, but he was the guy that the emperor always has to be a man. He was, but he basically rewrote the rulebook on what Japanese culture was, and people attribute the entire post-Reformation success of Japan to the very conservative views of Meiji that were embodied in the code of how Japan was modernized. So yes, we all know, probably right about all that, Oda Nobunaga and all that stuff, but we're not talking about anyone before Meiji in terms of when they say Japanese tradition. It is largely an invented mythology and tradition, but it served the purpose of the restoration of the monarchy in Japan. So yeah. You don't have to persuade anybody on that, but this is certainly, when you talk about what Abe and the Nippon Kaigi and the ultra sort of right wing, the ultra conservatives are representing, they invoke traditional Japanese history, but they're really talking about the Meiji Restoration, which in itself is a very complicated period of time as well. Quint Rankid laughing even harder, but from the 19th century, remember, from the 1800s. When all of that stuff was, of course, rampant, but also illegal. In a way, they probably did a better job of upholding legalized Victorian and Prussian morality than Prussia and Victorian England did, actually. So yes. Wow, the Matildas thrashed the Chinese today, Mr. Kordychev. The Matildas, they are the female, are they the soccer team, or are they the Aussie rules team? I think they must be this, what they throw. Congratulations, the Matildas, the Australian sports, I'd assume a female sports team of some kind. Coming back, this morning I woke up at 7 o'clock and I'd recorded the match that happened at 4:30 a.m. of the Japanese rugby team playing France. France is a country that can beat the All Blacks, they can beat any country in the world. They kind of go up and down, they're kind of down at the moment. But this is Japan playing in France against France. And Japan is like ranked 9 or 10 in the world. France is currently at 8. They're currently on a bit of a low ebb, but the idea that Japan could beat France was really not something I think anybody thought. 23-23, it was a draw, and Japan could have won it. They missed a lot of easy kicks. So in the end, France kind of was lucky to get away with a draw. A fantastic result for Japan. Some are saying it's like the biggest result since beating South Africa. Japan, of course, beat Wales a few years ago as well. So Japan has beaten a couple of tier 1 countries now. And yeah, fantastic win against South Africa. In fact, Eddie Jones, I still think, is the best coach of rugby in the world, actually, and I say that as a New Zealander. What he did with Japan and what he's done with every team that he's taken over, pretty much. Hey, every team has their thing. Believe me, as a New Zealander, we have the 1999 quarterfinal against France that we got knocked out. We have the was that a semi-final that we lost? In fact, we lost that. We lost a few years later again, the quarterfinals against France, losing 1995 to South Africa. We have plenty to be gutted about the South Africans. So that was a, as I recognized years later when New Zealand lost, that was a great game by Japan. Mulberry Pie, you heard about Japan beating South Africa, but you saw the game, right? You saw that final 10 minutes. That was an amazing game, and I used to play rugby for a French rugby club, and when we would sit down at a party, they were going to put in the video of the damn 1999 game that New Zealand lost, and it was a great game, and the All Blacks played well. Lomu scored 3 tries. I mean, the French just were amazing. I've come to peace with it by recognizing after being forced to watch it, and that was a game which really did actually make me depressed. The entire New Zealand economy collapsed after we lost that semi-final to France in 1999. But about 10 years later, I was finally able to watch the game and recognize it was just a great game. And that Japan-South Africa game was like that too. It really was. A similar thing this morning. I guess the French might be feeling down about it, but Japan played well. And final one, Dan Carter. Maybe as a New Zealander, talking a little bit of rugby, but he's coming to play for the Kobe Steelers. He's going to play for Kobe Steel, which is actually going through a massive scandal at the moment. I'm guessing they're putting up a lot of money for him. But yeah, he's coming over from France. He's retired from international rugby, but I would still say you could probably say he's the best number 10 in the world, which is really the most important position in rugby. They really dictate how play flows. Which is to say, he is probably still the best rugby player in the world, and he's coming to Japan, so it's going to be awesome. So yeah, he's just an excellent player, and he still is an excellent player. Every team he's been transferred to and plays for in France has won the championship. I mean, he's just he's just a legend. So that is awesome. And then that's all the topics that I have. So that's all lined up. It's exactly 1 hour. I don't have a track set up for today. I could play something that I did last week, but what do you reckon? I might compose something. Give me a style of music to compose now, and I will do that. Oh, quick reminder, very important reminder for everybody. Next Sunday, oh shit, I won't be able to do the show next Sunday because I will be at the Big in Japan release where I'll be emceeing. I'll be doing the Q&A after the movie premiere in Tokyo. That should be very exciting. If you are interested in tickets, message me. I can hook you up. Show you where to get them. If you're in Tokyo, it's going to be in Ikebukuro. The screening starts at 7 p.m. or at least the doors open at 7 p.m. in Ikebukuro on December 3rd, next Sunday night. So I guess I'm not going to be able to do the show. I might do it on Saturday night. We'll see what happens. But yeah, it's going to be a very, very good show, a good movie. I'm looking forward to it. And there'll be a bunch of YouTubers and so on there. It should be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of you there, hopefully. And I might do a show afterwards. I'm just thinking I might make it back in time. I might not. We'll play it by ear how that goes. But if you're in Tokyo, definitely check out the Big in Japan premiere on December 3rd in Ikebukuro, and hang out with me if you're there. I'm going to be there. So that will be awesome. Mozart, Tony Bennett. We've got Gangnam Style, Riot Jazz. Clearly, I made a terrible mistake inviting people to suggest genres, especially given what I have here, to play around with Stomp. Okay, well, that didn't go well at all. Let's just plug in and see what we can do with this, shall we? So let's do an outro with. Let me try not to make too much noise and plug this fella in. Boom. And let's boot that up. AKB Chill Out House. Well, that's the first reasonable one. Hardstyle Techno. Shui, that's a pretty good one as well. Chiptune. I love chiptune actually, and this isn't a good tool for that, but I'm getting into some stuff where I'll be able to make some chip tunes. In fact, I always aspire to make chip tunes, so let's see how close I can get to that. The problem is I can't really do a good chip tune beat. Well, let's do this. Let's make a completely new track. Yeah, let's do that. So let's take a beat that sounds like, and for chip tune, let's make it a... Let's see. So that's actually about right, 120. Okay, let's turn on the audio and let's make a chip tuney type track. Let's do Lockria E. Let's not do Electro House. Let's pick something that's... In fact, for this one, let's see if we can get something kind of minimalistic for the beat. That's a possibility. I need something broken down. I like that. It's kind of Miami bassy. Let's take this. Oh, that's kind of chiptunesy. Let's take that. Okay, let's make it all square. Chiptunesy. Let's make it all square. Let's do some beeps. Hey. Optimid. I'm gonna check that out. was kind of fun. Let's see if I can play around with that some more. Chip Jonesy, okay. Thank you for the suggestion. I hope you all have a good night. I'll see you probably next week. I'm going to be at the Big in Japan premiere, but in any case, I'm going to still do a show. And when I get the beta for My Chan TV, which is awesome, when that is ready to go, I am going to let all you guys know and send out invites, because it's going to be awesome for the beta. And I'd love to get your feedback on it. I hope you all have a good week, and keep cool until after school. Kakite ano, peace, boom, see you later. Have a good week, everyone. Hope you like the track. It's kind of a cool track. I quite like that. That just came up with that. Boom, 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 boom. Stop streaming. See ya.